He will see in Bakersfield, San Jose. We'll see in Buffalo, Toledo, Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for those tickets. Folks, I'm excited. One of our favorite people here at the show, Viva Frei, is with us. And I know he has a real name, but I don't like to call him by his real name. And he's a Canadian lawyer, former political candidate for the People's Party of Canada, eh? He gained popularity on YouTube for his legal commentaries going by the pseudonym Viva Frei, and he's now post content exclusively on Rumble. So let's welcome back to the show, Viva Frei. Hi, Viva. How are you?
Jimmy, I'm doing great. I have to only add a caveat. I'm also now a former litigator because I voluntarily relinquished my Quebec law license because the only good it was serving me from down here in Florida was allowing people to file anonymous ethics bar complaints to my bar society because they didn't like my tweets pooping on Justin Trudeau at the time and the Liberal government of Canada.
Oh, okay. So tell me what the breaking news is out of Canada, eh?
It's actually quite stunning. I know both of the journalists involved in this story. There's a Twitter handle. Her name is Natasha Montreal, or at Natasha Montreal, who's a journalist, independent journalist, who was documenting the, call them pro-Palestinian protests. We don't need to argue over how to qualify them, with a Rebel News journalist, Alexa Lavoie. And they started getting, verbally aggressed, we'll call it that, not physically assaulted by the crowd. The cops are sitting there. The cops do nothing, except the cops proceed to violently arrest Natasha, twist her arms around, throw her to the ground, hospitalize her, on the basis that they allegedly, or she allegedly, assaulted the police officer. And now Alexa Lavoie of Rebel News has put together the whole thing because she got the whole thing on camera. You see this cop putting his hands on Natasha's hips to, to contain her or grope her before she then takes his hands off of her, and then he claims assault, arrests her, physically assaults her, throws her. She's been facing criminal charges now, hospitalized. And no leadership in Canada, set aside the underlying issue of the protests across Canada. No politician in Canada has come out to condemn this abuse of police excessive force for independent journalists doing their job, documenting events of public importance.
Voyons donc! Mais voyons, vous êtes malade! Vous avez pas honte de faire ça? Hey, c'est une femme, là! C'est une journaliste indépendante. Qu'est-ce que vous faites là?
Je fais des voies de fait sur un policier.
Ah, pas fait de voie de fait. On va le voir sa caméra de bord, monsieur.
It's offensive what the police abuse is, but also the lack of leadership in Canada to come out and condemn police abuse on independent journalists who had committed no crime.
Well, I mean, that's kind of par for the course up there in Canada. I mean, if you look what was happening on during the trucker protests and the illegal use of the Emergency Powers Act, which the court said was illegal, and then nothing happens. Nothing happens to anybody. Can you give us an update? Has anything ever happened to Justin Trudeau or anybody in the government? They were debanking people because they were just peacefully protesting.
They're back to debanking. At least latest reports from, I think it's the Western Standard, is announcing that they've started debanking again, and I'm not exactly sure on the context. They've gone back to their old ways. No, the federal courts declared the invocation of the Emergencies Act unlawful and abusive, except that commission that they held for 6 weeks within the 18 months of the invocation, Commissioner Rouleau they ratified it. They basically said, yeah, he was justified in invoking the Emergencies Act. This is a non-judicial analysis. This was a political hearing that they had. When you invoke the Emergencies Act, you have to conduct an inquiry within 18 months into the context surrounding the invocation of the act. It's not a court case. It's a political procedure. And that guy, Commissioner Rouleau, ratified it, said it was okay. They went a little too far, he said, in canceling the insurance of the vehicles and freezing bank accounts, but for the rest, good to go. Federal courts have come in and said, no, not good to go, although there have been no ramifications. There's been no compensation for those who were unjustly debanked. Some people still remain debanked to this day, effectively, and no political ramifications, because it seems that Mark Carney, the anointed Kamala Harris-esque, hand-selected prime minister designate, is picking up in the polls, despite the devastation of a decade that the Liberals have inflicted upon Canada. So no political consequences thus far, no legal consequences thus far, and there won't be any political consequences from the commission because Justin Trudeau was ratified in invoking the Emergencies Act.
So we're still waiting to see if there'll be if Kash Patel will do anything about the FBI starting that riot on January 6th in the United States, because it was definitely an FBI infiltration job. We know through congressmen who investigated it that they had cops in their uniforms inside the Capitol will go into rooms, change their clothes, come out looking like Trump supporters. That was before the riot started. I won't call it an insurrection because you don't have insurrections without guns. And that was before they didn't have guns. So that was before the riot started. They had FBI assets dressed as Trump supporters inside the Capitol. And so we know that that's the game they played. They not only did it to Trump and Trump support. Again, you don't have to like Trump. You don't have to like MAGA. But if they can do it to the president and his supporters, they can do it to anybody. That's why it matters. Well, they do it all over the world now, right? Because we're run by globalists. And they did it the same thing, same trick, the same playbook that did it to Bolsonaro in Brazil, which is why that never got reported here in the United States, because they didn't want people to put two and two together.
Oh, Jimmy, I mean, it was an insurrection. It was just carried out by the deep state apparatus. Well, I think it was Revolver, Darren Beattie, who qualified it as the Fedsurrection. It absolutely was that. I mean, it's a known fact. But like you're bringing up some decent qualms that people might have with the administration. Kash Patel came in, said he's going to go hard on the deep state apparatus, go hard on FBI corruption. He's made a lot of big promises. Dan Bongino, as the deputy director, he spent the better part of the last 3 years, from his own personal insider knowledge, telling us that the Jan 6 pipe bombing was an inside deal. Yeah, well, now he's deputy director. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I like him. I've known him a long time, at least from my internet life. I trust him. He's going to do the right thing. He's going to do the just thing. They have a certain window of opportunity within which to do it, failing which people are going to start losing confidence. But we know what Dan has been saying very vocally for the last 2 years. He's in there now. And we better see some of the Jan 6 stuff come out, the pipe bomber stuff come out, the amount of feds that they had on the ground come out, who declined the National Guard, what Yogananda Pittman's role in all of this was. And I won't use certain analogies that can be misconstrued. There'd better be some political and judicial hell to pay for what they did, because it was an insurrection. They tried to impeach Trump a second time, disqualify him from office, demonize half of the country, and justify a police state against their political and ideological adversaries.
Wow, very well said. You sound like a lawyer. Yes, that's exactly what they did. You know what's kind of interesting, Viva, is that so up in Canada, so now the cops are cracking down against reporters and you don't have the First Amendment in Canada, but their free speech and just doing journalism on behalf of Zionists. On behalf of the Palestinian protesters in Canada, but here back in the United States, like at Columbia University, the exact opposite. They do the same thing, same tactics, same struggle, but they do it at the behest of Israel. So just depends on nobody in power cares about your free speech. I'll tell you that.
Well, I mean, I like to say that everybody loves free speech until you're in a position of power and others use it as a tool to dethrone you.
Yes.
And it is a very it's a very fine line because I defended the trucker protest, and
As did I.
I defend the pro-Palestinian protest. I went to the encampments.
That's good for you.
Well, I say that the big caveat is in Montreal at least, and I think it's a bit of the same elsewhere. There was a substantial amount of vandalism. I went and saw the vandalism. The media in Canada didn't report on it, but physical vandalism is one thing. They're not entirely analogous. There was no vandalism at the trucker protest. There is meaningful vandalism at these pro-Palestinian protests, and to an extent, you say you can wash it off and it's fine.
Well,
We'll go for it.
But like in the government in the United States, they're okay with vandalism if it's Black Lives Matter vandalism.
Oh yeah, no, the same thing in Canada. They're okay with BLM protests during COVID, but they're not okay with Maxime Bernier going and holding an outdoor political rally for 30 some odd people.
That's
But
right.
in the case of Mahmoud Khalil, where we're talking about making examples of people, and I say you better make examples of the ones that are the best, primest examples, and not the ones that are going to further the political persecution angle. That's a very borderline case where even in the beginning of that, when everyone was coming out and saying, good, deport his ass, and FAFO and whatever, I was like, what exactly is he being accused of having done? Set aside the nuance that visas are privileges. I wanted to know the facts, and then I started getting a little blowback from what people might call the right, saying, Viva, why are you defending him? And I'm like, especially Viva, as a Jew, why are you defending him? I was like, I just want to know what he did before I can come to the conclusion as to whether or not it was warranted. He might have, he did, I say, cross the line in one interview where he seemingly admitted to actively participating in obstruction and defying police orders and not just acting as a, what's the word I'm looking for? When you're
negotiator?
Negotiator, yeah. He seemed to have crossed the line in terms of being a negotiator, impartial third party versus a participant. But I say, like, if you're going to cancel visas and deport, you better make sure that it's good examples that you're doing it with and that you're actually not creating more political blowback and victimization than setting examples of how to abide by rules when you have the privilege of a visa in a foreign country.
Well, you catch grief from the right for standing on principle. I've been canceled by the left, certainly in Hollywood, for standing on principle during the Trump's first administration about Russiagate, about the Ukraine war, about January 6th, about all that stuff, including and whatever was left, whoever I had left not hating me, they hate me now because of my stance on COVID, which is principled against mandates and mandating experimental medical treatments on healthy people. Hey, we'll see you in Bakersfield, San Jose. We'll see you in Buffalo, Toledo, Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for those tickets.